We've checked a claim a couple of times already from Mary Burke, focusing on 10 states and one ranking.
Scott Walker promised 250,000 jobs. Instead, Wisconsin fell to dead last in Midwest job growth.
But the latest ad from Governor Walker pushes back on that, offering a different lineup of states.
Well, the latest job numbers are in, and Wisconsin created more private sector jobs in Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Ohio, and Illinois. That means we rank third in the Midwest.
Both of these statements need some clarification. Burke and Walker's numbers are apples and oranges, or to use another fruit metaphor, they're cherry-picked. Look at the bottom of the governor's ad. He's citing the Bureau of Labor Statistics' current employment survey and private sector jobs created between July 2013 and July 2014. Comparing those states with their monthly figures, he's right that we're third of 10, but these monthly figures are not numbers the governor has liked before. Back in 2012, before the recall election, Walker said something called the Quarterly Census of Employment and Wages was the gold standard of jobs numbers because it was a more complete survey of total employment in the state, while the monthly numbers was a snapshot subject to revision. Those are the numbers Mary Burke is using in her ad, looking at the QCEW figures that are available from December 2010 to December 2013. By that measure, Burke is right that of 10 states, we're 10th. We've pointed out before that neither candidate should use just 10 states. The BLS Midwest region includes 12. By that count, with Walker's statistics, we're 4th. With Burke's statistics, we're 11th. I'm Jessica Arp with this News 3 Reality Check. A third-party group does some deep digging in case files in this attack ad against Republican Attorney General candidate Brad Schimmel.
When predators try to harm our kids, it's a prosecutor's job to put them behind bars.
If you jump to the end of the ad, you'll see it's paid for by the Committee for Justice and Fairness. This is the state arm of a Washington, D.C.-based super PAC. Look at their campaign finance filings and you'll see they've gotten big donations from AFSCME, the union that represents Wisconsin state employees, and $1.3 million from the Democratic Attorneys General Association.
But Brad Schimmel has a history of letting child predators go free.
This is misleading. From a purely legal standpoint, it's up to a judge whether or not someone gets jail time or walks free. It is a district attorney's call what charges are filed and how they're prosecuted. And that's what the ad deals with next.
He repeatedly cut deals in child pornography cases, dismissed charges, let sex offenders avoid prison.
What's being said here needs clarification, but part of what's shown on the screen is false. Schimmel agreed to plea deals in the 6 cases seen here. None of them were not prosecuted, as the ad shows on the left. Because of those plea deals, the cases did not go to trial, and as part of those deals, some charges were dismissed in exchange for a guilty plea. In 4 of the cases, the offenders did do some prison time. In 2 of the cases, the offenders did not go to prison. In 1, a man found to possess child pornography on his computer 6 years earlier was given 90 days in jail and 9 years probation. In another, a man that sexually assaulted his 2 nieces when they were children but was accused of the crimes 32 years after the incidents was given 8 years probation. Schimmel says he requested the sentences in both of these cases he calls, quote, very unusual, in part because of the time delays. In the second case, he says the family of the victim requested no prison time. But Schimmel tells me he stands by the sentences in both of these cases.
Schimmel even cut a deal with no jail time for a man who sexually assaulted a child.
This is false. This case here is another where a plea deal was cut. 19-year-old Nicholas Miller was charged with 4th-degree sexual assault, sex with a child over 16, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. As part of the deal, Miller pled guilty to 2 charges and was sentenced to 6 months in jail. He then broke probation and was sentenced to another year in jail. In his latest ad, Governor Scott Walker makes the case that jobs are coming to Wisconsin.
We promised Wisconsin we'd work to create more jobs.
This is true, but he doesn't tell you his exact promise. Walker pledged to help create 250,000 jobs in his 2010 campaign. This ad doesn't mention that number. Instead, Walker wants you to focus on these numbers.
Amazon plans to hire 1,100 full-time workers.
Added 1,500 jobs.
200 jobs coming to Marinette Marine,
bringing in roughly 700 jobs.
Some of this is true. Amazon.com and Marinette Marine are both planning to add the jobs cited here. Amazon's Kenosha Distribution Center is under construction and slated to be open by the end of this year. Marinette Marine is adding jobs to work on Navy ships. But it's the other two cases where you don't hear a company name that are misleading. The 700 jobs cited here aren't new. Schreiber Foods built a new facility in downtown Green Bay and simply consolidated existing jobs from 6 other facilities. Then there's this clip. We'll let you see it again.
Added 1,500 jobs.
Thinking 1,500 jobs are added by this hotel? Wrong. Instead, the story was quoting the West Allis mayor saying 1,500 jobs have been added throughout his entire city over the year. This hotel may potentially add 30 to 40 jobs.
We've gone from losing over 133,000 jobs to gaining over 100,000 jobs.
More people in Wisconsin are finding work.
Wisconsin's unemployment rate is a full percentage point lower.
This is true. Wisconsin lost jobs, as states around the country did during the Great Recession from 2006 to 2010. So far during Walker's term, Wisconsin has gained 102,000 jobs. Unemployment rates are also down. Since 2010, rates have gone from 7.8% to 5.8% in July. I'm Jessica Arp with this News 3 Reality Check. They're smiling, they're working, and Governor Walker wants you to believe they're all the happy results of his first term.
I was out of work for 2 years. I got some training, and now I'm back at work.
I got a job.
I got a job.
Me too.
Count them, 1, 2, 3, 4 people who claim they've gotten jobs recently. You'll see one more as the ad goes on, all thanking the governor and saying it's working. We don't have a stamp for this one because we have no idea if these people got jobs. Governor Walker's campaign won't tell us who they are so we can verify their job status or that they're not actors. The governor's campaign spokeswoman says they are residents, but that they are respecting the wishes of private citizens who prefer not to release their information, which begs the question we then asked, why did they appear in a statewide television ad? The campaign had no response.
Wisconsin's unemployment rate is down.
I got a job.
Job growth is up.
I got more money for the kids.
This needs clarification. Unemployment is down. It was 7.8% when Walker started his term, 5.8% now. Job growth is up, just more than 100,000 jobs, but not the 250,000 jobs the governor promised. But more money for the kids? Again, we can't verify whether or how she got money, whether she's acting, or if she even has kids.
That's why Governor Walker invested over $100 million into worker training, so people can land the jobs that will keep moving Wisconsin forward.
This also needs clarification. The campaign gave us a list of money he's invested, totaling $118 million state dollars for worker training. Of that list, we'd say about $80 million of it is new state money for training programs. $5 million of it is general funding for tech schools, and $35 of it isn't necessarily new. They shifted unused money from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation for new programs. I'm Jessica Arp with this News 3 Reality Check. If you're one of the thousands of people who will be signing up for a new health care exchange plan, you may be wondering what the costs will be. While we won't know exact amounts until next Tuesday, here's some clarification to the government's estimates statewide. Of the 13 carriers who said they'd offer exchange plans in Wisconsin, they may not all be offering plans where you live. Most counties in our viewing area have at least 3 options for providers: GHC, Dean, and Unity. Some have more, adding in providers like Mercy or Gunderson, some less. Marquette and Green Lake County only have 1 option for a provider. So, will they all cost the same? No. The state was actually broken up into 16 different service areas. Dane County is its own. Our viewing area has about 5 others. You see them coded here by colors. Insurance companies actually set their rates based on these areas. So, for example, a Dean, Unity, or GHC plan might cost a different amount in Dane versus Sauk County.
Really depends on the carrier in terms of how they priced before, where they put themselves in the market, to how they have to price tomorrow under the new law, under the new federal law, and within the exchange.
What we can compare right now are the lowest cost plans. In Dane County, here are the totals, ranging from $104 for a catastrophic plan to $241 for a gold plan. But here's where you see a difference. In Iowa County, the lowest cost gold plan is $272 a month, nearly $40 a month more than Dane County. In fact, the Iowa, Lafayette, and Grant County region has the highest of the lowest costs for every plan level in our viewing area. And if you're thinking you'll just county hop for coverage, think again.
The federal law is based off of the county in which you live in. And so if you live in Sauk County, you're only eligible to purchase plans for qualified health providers that are offering coverage in Sauk County.
Of course, these are just the low-end prices. They don't factor in your age, health, or any tax subsidies you may be eligible for. We'll know a lot more about these prices when the marketplace opens next Tuesday. I'm Jessica Arp with this News 3 Reality Check. They're consistently considered one of the heaviest hitters in Washington, ranked in the top 20 by money tracking groups on political spending. So how is the NRA connected to Wisconsin's congressional delegation? We looked over the last 4 years and found 7 members of our congressional delegation have gotten direct contributions from the NRA. Janesville Republican Paul Ryan ranks at the top with $7,000 in donations, but La Crosse Democrat Ron Kind isn't far behind with $6,950. Waukesha Republican Jim Sensenbrenner is next at $6,000. Oshkosh Senator and Republican Ron Johnson has nearly $6,000 as well. Congressman Reed Ribble, Tom Petri, and Sean Duffy round out the list, getting between $3,000 and $5,000. But the money train doesn't stop there. The NRA also spends money to either get members elected to Congress or make sure they don't. In 2010, they spent more than $1.2 million to get Ron Johnson elected. This year, they spent more than $650,000 against Congresswoman Tammy Baldwin for Senate and more than $70,000 helping Reed Ribble and Sean Duffy. Then there is their record. Jim Sensenbrenner and Tom Petri were in Congress when the 1994 assault weapons ban was passed, and they both voted against it. 4 separate times there have been bills to reauthorize the ban. They all failed in committee. Once, Congressman Ron Kind was a co-sponsor but pulled off the bill within a week. No Wisconsin members signed on to the bills in 03, 04, 05, or 07. The NRA also gives a ranking to members of Congress based on their voting record, public statements, and a questionnaire. In Wisconsin, you're either flying or failing. 6 Republicans and 1 Democrat all get an A from the NRA. 3 Democrats all get a failing grade. I'm Jessica Arp with this News 3 Reality Check. Are we in a hole or out of one? And who did the digging? The latest ads for governor are more about what's going on below ground than above.
It's a lot easier to dig a hole than to get out of one. The policies my opponent supports, well, they got us in a pretty big hole. Raised our taxes, left a massive deficit, and cost Wisconsin 133,000 jobs.
This needs clarification. The governor is blaming Burke for 2 things, a state budget and a national recession. As a cabinet secretary in the Department of Commerce, it's unlikely she was directly responsible for either. Doyle's budget while she was secretary and that she did support raised taxes and fees by $1.8 billion in 2007. By the end of 2010, Wisconsin was facing a $3.6 billion deficit. But that deficit and loss of jobs has been at least partially attributed to a nationwide economic slowdown.
Our reforms got us out of the hole. We cut taxes, eliminated the deficit, and created over 100,000 jobs.
This needs clarification. First, every governor is required by state law to eliminate the deficit and balance the budget. Walker did that. His last budget also cut income and property taxes, and since he took office, the state has created just more than 102,000 jobs, but not the 250,000 jobs he promised in his last campaign. Walker ends the ad on a ladder outside the hole, but Mary Burke argues we're still in it.
But hold on, it was Governor Walker who got us here. His tax breaks for the wealthy helped create a $1.8 billion deficit.
This is misleading, in part because that deficit is projected and not actual. In numbers released this month, the nonpartisan Legislative Fiscal Bureau says the state could face a $1.8 billion budget shortfall by mid-2015. In that time, Walker could cut spending, revenues could increase, or the legislature could pass a budget repair bill, eliminating that deficit. Did tax breaks for the wealthy cause this problem? Well, income tax revenues are down so far this year, but Walker offered the tax cuts to all income taxpayers, not just one bracket. Who got the most? 44% of the total tax cut went to those making $100,000 or more. But people making $10,000 to $30,000 got the highest percentage of their tax bill cut. Walker also cut some taxes for businesses in the state. Over 4 years, that impact is estimated at $610 million. I'm Jessica Arp with this News 3 Reality Check. Welcome to Campaign 2014, where we skip the get-to-know-you phase and jump right to the attacks, like these from Democratic candidate Mary Burke.
And when she was Commerce Secretary, there were 72,000 more jobs than today.
It's true that when you look at federal jobs numbers, the last year Burke was at Commerce and the most recent year under Walker, that there were 72,000 more jobs then versus now. Then we get to the claim that's already got the governor's campaign up in arms.
So why is Scott Walker's RGA spending $1 million attacking her? Under Walker, unemployment's up.
This is false. Under Walker or during his term, unemployment is not up. It's actually down, which the governor points out in his retort.
When Governor Walker took office, the unemployment rate was 7.8%. Today it's 6.3%.
In the Burke ad, you see 4.8% on the screen, which Burke's team says was the unemployment rate when she was Commerce Secretary. Is it fair for her to compare her record to the governor's? Sure, but that's not what the ad actually says or shows on the screen. It refers to Walker's term in office. Then the governor goes on to throw out his own jobs figure.
When Governor Walker took office, the unemployment rate was 7.8%. Today it's 6.3%.
This is true. Adding up the most accurate and best available jobs figures, we get to just more than 100,000 jobs created, but still not the 250,000 jobs promised in this term. Then we get to the final claim in the Burke ad.
Job prospects are down to 45th in the nation.
This needs clarification. Burke cites a 45th ranking for 5-year job prospects as of August 2013. But that's not the whole picture. According to Moody's Analytics, who tracks these numbers, Wisconsin ranked 45th when Walker took office. A year later, we were 42nd. A year after that, 44th. We're now at 46th. For comparison's sake, the last month Mary Burke was at the Department of Commerce, the state ranked 45th. I'm Jessica Arp with this News 3 Reality Check.